time, Tyler. It's always a blast coming up in the studio. You guys are having some renovations. It's like I feel like every time I come in here, it looks different. It's awesome. Much deserved for you guys.
Shout out to our engineer, Randy, and Dave, you can attest to this. He's doing it all himself. He's quite literally pulling up the carpet, putting down tiles. He's earning his money, as he's been doing ever since he started working with us, beginning of the year, I guess, a couple months ago?
Yeah. I can't believe he's doing it all himself. I would have volunteered to help him, but,
Well, Dave, we don't need you falling again.
That's true.
So, yeah, stay in the studio, push the buttons, turn on the mics, the cameras. So that's more in your lane. We don't need you doing anything too physical.
Yeah, that's true. If I do fall, I can't get up, so I have to roll out the door.
Right.
So, but if you're looking for a couple extra bucks, maybe you can help him out with some carpet or tiles or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always free, and just kind of tell me what to do, and I'll figure it out.
Yeah, you seem to be sturdy. Got some good strength to you. I think you'd fit in well.
The Midwestern build kind of helps me around the house, I guess.
There you go.
If you will, little honeydews, if you will.
Oh man, 11 days. We're almost there. We are so dang close. We were talking about things on your show last night with Week 0 coming up this week in Farmageddon over in Ireland, and then we'll get the ball rolling and nonstop until, for college football, late January, the NFL early February.
Yeah, absolutely, Tyler. This is the end of fall camp. I'm sure the guys inside the building are really happy to hear that. Just got to get through the end of this week, and it's game week. You've got, it's no longer a nameless, faceless opponent. You've got Virginia Tech up, and, it's time to, get going, get everything, the whole operation running.
And I know from a media standpoint, a fan standpoint, it's so much more exciting when you have that quality opponent. And this is not disrespectful to SC State, but let's say the SC State game was week number 1. It's like, all right, for one, you don't learn as much in those games and unfortunately we learned too much against Old Dominion because that was a tight game, but typically those games go the way they're supposed to go. You win that game by 40, 50 points, get a bunch of backups in. It doesn't really tell us anything about the team. It's like, all right, let's wait till week 2 or week 3 when you get that first quality opponent. And look, Virginia Tech isn't the most daunting Power 4 opponent. Brent Pry's on the hot seat, all that kind of stuff. But it's still the same caliber of type of team that you're going to see week in and week out. So it gives you a good litmus test of where you're at to start the season.
Yeah, Tyler, there is no preseason in college football. So, there's really 2 approaches to scheduling at the start of the year. Do you schedule somebody that's going to be a quality opponent that you're going to see down the road, give yourself a good first test and trust your fall camp? Or do you schedule somebody like a Western Michigan, like Michigan is doing, in a couple of years over in Germany of all places?
For some reason. Yeah, no, and I've said this before. That game's going to be unentertaining to watch because they're going to blow them out, and people in Germany will be like, what's this? Why is this exciting?
Yeah, there are proper ways to kick off the season. And again, South Carolina doing it right by going, to a neutral site in Atlanta. That stadium is beautiful, Tyler.
Yeah, it is. I went for the first time this year to a concert, nonetheless. And again, I hold the Georgia Dome near and dear to my heart. I believe there was no better place to play football than inside the Georgia Dome. A lot of special memories there. But Mercedes-Benz Stadium is cool. A lot of features. If you're going there for the first time for the game, for one, the concession prices are super cheap, which is great. Good tailgating seat and all that kind of stuff. You're going to have a great time. And again, I don't know if the roof's going to be open or not. I think it's going to be closed. I would think. But don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
Maybe they haven't made that decision yet. But yeah, it's a neat place.
Yeah, terrific venue to open it up. And then again, to play a opponent as quality as Virginia Tech coming out of the ACC too, it's a really good litmus test of what you're going to see from this South Carolina team this year. And it's going to exemplify all of the work that they've been putting in during fall camp.
So we'll finally start to get the answers to some of the many questions that we obviously have about this team. And one of the questions we've had a lot this offseason has to do with pass rush. Okay, we know Dylan Stewart. Who's going to be that other guy? We think it's Brian Thomas Jr. We'll have to see, obviously. But Beamer yesterday was asked the question of how much the pass rush helps out the rest of the defense, particularly the secondary. And to cut number 13, Dave, this is what he had to say. If it's going to play. One more time, 13. Beamer, let's see.
Yeah. Now, for us, it always starts with stopping the run first and foremost. That's the number one thing that we want to do is stopping the run. And then once you do that, that allows your pass rush to take over and force teams to throw the ball. So absolutely our ability to generate pressure. We knew going into last season that we needed to be more disruptive around the quarterback and create more negative plays, and we were able to do that. And absolutely, when you're a defensive back, you love that up front, guys that are able to put pressure on the quarterback and make him get rid of the ball quick. So they don't have to cover all day. So it all ties together, and it'll be critical next Sunday in Atlanta against Drones. He's a weapon back there. That's an experienced guy that can make a lot of plays with his feet, and we're going to need to do a great job of stopping the run, putting pressure on him, keeping him corralled, and then allowing our guys to go out there and do what we want to do defensively.
So I look at this, and it's interesting that he notes specifically it's starting with the run defense. And really, even going back to before Beamer got here, run defense was something that Carolina struggled with. They just didn't have that consistent push up front to be able to stifle all the great running backs that you see in the SEC, and there's always a good list of them. You're going to see some of those guys this year, like Le'Veon Moss and Caden Durham and all those kind of guys. And what you had last year with the experience of TJ, Tonka, Boogie, those guys being able to plug those gaps up front, making these other teams' offenses a little bit one-dimensional. And you like what you see from a physical standpoint from Gabriel Brownlow-Dinley, Nick Barrett, who's been here for 12 years, it seems like, and Monkel Goodwine. You just don't know if they can replicate that same kind of success up front when it comes to defending the run.
Yeah, absolutely, Tyler. I think, having Boogie Huntley, come back that extra year, certainly helped, giving those guys an extra year of experience underneath them, learning from, the guys that are going on and playing in the league, stuff like that. So I think a name worth mentioning here, too, is Xavion Hardy. I don't know if he's getting enough talk. Transferred back in from, Last Chance U, I believe it was. Was a guy that was really high on their list, trying to get him in here, and things just didn't necessarily work out. But you're able to get him back. It helps depth in the room, too. So I think it's big to have Zay Hardy, a guy that athletic. I can remember when he was getting recruited, posting his basketball highlights. Like, if you can have a guy like that, like rejecting shots at the rim, playing defensive tackle for you, that should certainly help. And, again, you want to see his development truly come along.
And that's the thing. It's not that they're lacking bodies in the room at all, because they have a lot of depth. It's just how, I guess, functional depth is the word I'm looking for, of how many of those guys can actually get there on the field. Because a season ago, you had a Goodwine, you had DeAndre Jules, when he wasn't injured, that was able to, rotate in there. And again, when you look at the defensive tackle room, as you mentioned, Xavier Hardy, Devontae Miles coming in, Terrell Pikes coming in from Georgia Southern. You got freshmen like Williams and Ingram's, like, you got bodies in there. You just don't know how many of those guys are going to have the opportunity to actually factor in and play on the field, which is kind of the wait and see part of this.
Yeah, absolutely, Tyler. And, it's a room that needs it, how quickly these guys shift and change. And we saw that last year, Sterling Lucas and Travion Robertson were trying to go hockey shifts almost, getting these guys in, getting a rotation. So I would expect in Virginia Tech we'll see a lot of defensive tackles and a lot of shifts. And as, kind of the year goes along and in this early season kind of portion, as you start to figure it out, get towards, the more quality opponents, we're going to start to see, more of a starting line, and if you will.
And if you can replicate the success of stopping the run last year, that's going to allow the pass rush to eat once again. And look, Dylan Stewart, we know what we have in him. No worry in him. The only concern is, can he stay healthy, right? He's going to be taking on a lot of double teams. He's going to be top of the scouting report every single game. When they talk about Carolina's defense, they say, stop number 6 coming off the edge. We'll figure out the rest after that. So you're going to get chips. You're going to get double teams, all those kind of things. Kennard benefited greatly from being on the opposite side of him, especially once teams figured out, like, hey, this is a dude, we need to slow him down. And Kennard picked up the slack and was able to, not picked up the slack, but benefited from the openings that Dylan Stewart provided for him. We think Brian Thomas Jr. is going to be that guy this year. You still have opportunities for guys like, Des Yu and others, JT Gear in that room as well. But it seems like BTJ is kind of the prevailing thought of, okay, he's going to be the one. I'm not saying he's going to go in the Gursky Award, but he's the one that should benefit the most from Dylan Stewart being on the other side.
Yeah, absolutely, Tyler. We saw that from Brian Thomas Jr., when he was that rotational piece, kind of in and subbing in on the defensive line. When he did get in there, he showed flashes of, being a starting defensive end. So I think, as you mentioned, Des Yu, this could be a big year for Des Yu, right? He could, kind of step up to where BTJ was last year, making plays and being a really good rotational piece, and then eventually earning his way, into a starting job. So, I think, again, there's depth. Same thing with the defensive defensive tackle room. It's just not as proven as we've seen in years past. So we'll have to see. I think Brian Thomas Jr. is the guy, though.
The concerning thing is injuries are starting to add up a little bit.
Yeah.
You haven't played a game yet. You've already lost Jaylen Brown, and now we learned yesterday you lose George Wilson as well, somebody that they thought could come in here and actually have an impact pretty quickly. And again, you still got a lot of bodies in that room, but you're already starting at a -2 in that room as of right now. And again, we don't know how long those injuries are going to last, but they don't sound like they're going to be, rectified anytime here in the near future. So you also worry about the health in that room because again, you can have a lot of talent, but if that talent's hurt, they're not going to be there on the field.
Yeah, absolutely, Tyler. You need everyone to stay healthy. And I mean, it does help. Like as you mentioned on my show last night, if it's true that the reports coming out of camp that Dylan is bigger, better, stronger, faster, like I would think the injury, kind of worry would go down a little bit too if he's, adding muscle, adding layers, but you always knock on wood for something like that.
And by the way, what does a bigger, faster, stronger Dylan Stewart actually look like? I'm trying to wrap my head around that because what I saw last year was pretty big, pretty fast, and pretty strong. And you're telling me they got even better than that? That's terrifying.
Right, I know. And we were talking about it last night. There's a lot of guys on this team that have very, very high ceilings, like that are cut from a different cloth athletically, and that we, don't necessarily know what their ceiling looks like. Dylan Stewart's one of those guys. I mean, he came in really touted as a freshman. We knew what he could do, and blew those expectations out of the water too. So really special kid to have, a defensive end there.
Yeah, and obviously this entire defense is having to follow up, which was one of the best defenses we've seen in school history, certainly in recent memory since you and I have been alive. That's a hard act to follow. When you're replacing that much NFL talent, there's going to be a degree of drop-off. It's just not falling completely away from where they were. You go, being in that same realm, being close to the same numbers should set you up for success. But again, that's easier said than done.
Yeah, absolutely. And you see it kind of too. I mean, you've seen it in the secondary room because Torian Gray's been sending at least 1 to 2 guys to the league every year. Mm-hmm. So when you see that, either in the bowl game or like weeks 1, 2 next year, when the guy that was playing, number 2 corner makes that leap to number 1, he's going to get beat a couple times. There's going to be that adjustment. But naturally, you want there to be, him only getting beat once or twice, and then it's locked down from there. And that's, I feel like, the same kind of progression you'd like to see from the defensive tackles.
Again, 11 days away from the season kicking off. I love looking at bowl projections. And there's one consistent theme with a lot of bowl projections this year for South Carolina. I'll tell you what that is coming up next as the halftime show presented by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina rolls on. Tyler Head, Joe Machika, Captain Dave along with you on your Wednesday here on The Game. Welcome back in. Halftime show presented by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina. Tyler Head, Joe Machika, Captain Dave hanging out with you here on your Wednesday. I love bowl projections. If you gave me a bowl projection in the middle of March, I'm going to read the entire thing. I don't know what my fascination with it is, but especially in the preseason, I love getting an idea of where people think teams are going to be. And when you're coming off the heels of a 9-win season, guess what? You show up in people's bowl projections, because last year I found a hard time finding Carolina, and when I did, it was like Birmingham Bowl. I'm like, well, that's not very fun. This year's a little bit different.
Yeah, a little different this year, Tyler. Again, last season you were able to finish strong, obviously, and, end on a high note. But this season, it gives you a little bit more to talk about in the offseason. Yes, bowl projections are the best because really you have no kind of clue. It's just kind of a field preseason, and again, gives us something to talk about in August. But, and then there's those tie-ins too, which,
Sure.
you see depending on who's doing well in what conference or who you think is going to do well in what conference, you kind of get an idea of it. But yeah, always fun to, kind of throw out there, and especially with these bowls having these different kind of themes and stuff, it's always fun.
So, and there's been a lot that have been put out over the course of this offseason, but the most recent one from ESPN comes from Kyle Bonagora and Mark Schlabach that put out, they're detailed. Each one of them had their own pick for every single bowl game, and obviously the college football playoff as well. And one of the bowl selections, this one, I think it was Bonagora that selected this one, but it's one that I've seen a lot for South Carolina, and that's putting them in the ReliaQuest Bowl. Yes, it's Bonagora that has Schlabach that has South Carolina taking on Indiana at noon on January 1st in the ReliaQuest Bowl down there in Tampa, obviously the former Outback Bowl. And this one is the one I've seen more than anything else. Just about every single bowl projection has this netted for South Carolina, which would equate to about an 8-win team. Right? 8 to 9 wins. I know Bama played in it last year as a 9-win team, but an 8 or 9-win team, unfortunately, that would also mean you're making the playoffs. But, all things considered, given what you lost last year at the NFL, that's not terrible. It's not where you want to be, but it's also not terrible either.
Yeah, Tyler, I mean, I think it's kind of a good landing point, right? If you didn't meet every expectation of what you had for this team this year, right?
Yeah.
I think, it's a bowl that's been kind to South Carolina, right? You've got, some of the more memorable moments of that bowl's history in the Outback Bowl, the hit against Michigan, Jadeveon Clowney. So it's not necessarily, a bad place to be. And again, Bama was there as a 9-win team too. But I think this team and this program have bigger goals, obviously, to make the college football playoff. And you were right there last year. So I wouldn't necessarily say you're satisfied with it, but it's also not the worst place to be.
So if I propose this to you, if I say I'm from the future, 5 months in the future, I know everything that happens in the college football season, I can guarantee you 8 wins and a trip to the ReliaQuest Bowl right now. Are you taking that? Or are you taking the mystery of door number 2 where you could make the playoff, you could miss a bowl game, and you just got to leave it up to chance? Which option are you picking?
I think South Carolina fans and players alike are picking door number 2, right? Because as we've been talking about, this team has so many players that, we don't know, how high their ceiling is potentially, right? Nick Harbor, Lenore Sellers, Dylan Stewart. There's a lot of guys that can make plays and that we haven't seen the ceiling of, right? And with as much momentum as you had to finish last season, I think you're going to take door number 2 just because, I think this program and this fan base is at a position where they're ready to stop settling for bowl games, right? They're ready to start competing, and they're ready to, start breaking down the door of the upper echelon of college football.
Yeah, and I think, Carolina's at the point with a lot of people where the quality of bowl game really matters. And again, you're a team that missed a bowl game 2 years ago, so it's kind of a weird thing to say. But I look at Bonagora that put Carolina in the Dukes Mayo Bowl playing Louisville, and I feel like that's a game that everybody looks at and says, ugh, Dukes Mayo again. We went there in Beamer's first year. That was cool because that was a year where nobody thought you were even going to make a bowl game, right? You weren't expected to win, 3 games, let alone 6 in the regular season, 7 when you count the bowl game. So that was fine, but I don't think it's a bowl game that people get hyped up anymore. When you tasted the success you had a year ago of being on the cusp of the playoff, Citrus Bowl, that kind of stuff, nobody wants to now go to the Duke's Mayo Bowl.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a bar that you set in your first year, right? When this team was still young and fun and developing, right? So to kind of go back there, it's not to say that the Duke's Mayo Bowl isn't fun or anything. Great destination for a game and everything. But I think this program thinks that, they can do more, right? The Outback Bowl being, I guess, the minimum if we're speaking on, talking about momentum from last season, capitalizing on momentum from last season.
Right. And that's the thing to me is just being consistent. Again, you'd love for them to go 10-2 and make the playoff and those kind of things. But if you told me that Carolina missed the playoff this year and went 8-4 and played in the ReliaQuest Bowl, I wouldn't be upset about that. I'd say, you know what, that's still a really solid season. Again, 2 years ago, you weren't even in a bowl game, so I think you would take that in a heartbeat. Certainly 2 years ago, there would be a disappointment factor, I feel like, that you may have wasted Lenore Sellers last year.
Right.
Because, again, it's like, man, if you're going to make the playoff, you got the quarterback to do it. Let's hop on this and go. So I can understand that standpoint of it. But still, with the amount of unknowns we have on this team, winning 8 games is a guarantee. Like, I would feel okay about that.
Yeah, I would think so, Tyler. Again, like I said, it's not like if it can be your worst case scenario, I think that's ideal, right? Like, or even like second worst case scenario. Like, if you don't achieve the heights that you said you were going to achieve, I think again it's the spot to be, and you certainly take it too. And like I said, big bowl game too. You're going to get a Big Ten opponent, and
that's where you have to figure out the ceiling and the floor, right? Where I think, and this is for just about everybody in the SEC, like 10-2. Right? Like that is if everything goes right this year, you can have maybe a 10-2 type regular season, which to me that puts you in the playoff.
Oh yeah.
No doubt about that. Easier said than done, and you obviously have a challenging schedule. It's where that floor is of like, okay, is it 7-5? Is it 8-4? Do you think no matter what they're making a bowl game, without any hesitation, which I do feel like Carolina's going to be in a bowl game no matter what this year. They're too good of a team across the board to not be. And certainly, as long as Sellers and Stewart stay healthy, you should be fine there. It's just like, okay, is your floor, is it 7-5? Is it 8-4? Like what is it?
Right, and I'm with you, Tyler. I think, the floor is making a bowl game. I don't think, if this team drops out of bowl territory, like that was a, horrendous failure on all counts, right? Yeah. And I think everyone's kind of in that boat. But again, yeah, it does bring up the question. It's like which bowl game is a failure, and which one would be a success with what you had and whatnot. And again, knock on wood, there's no injuries or anything causing it, the drop. But I don't know. I think the Duke's Mayo, it's again not the worst landing spot in the world, but you've accomplished that already.
We've got a caller on the AAA Heating and Air phone lines, 803-404-6100, that wants to weigh in on the bowl conversation. Joe's been hanging on. Joe, what's on your mind?
What's going on, fellas? Enjoying the show.
Thank you.
Just wanted to, I think Mayo Bowl would be a huge disappointment, and I'm a lifelong Gamecock fan, I'm being realistic. But, yeah, a couple years ago, being my first season, I went down to the Gator Bowl. It was an exciting game. It was a great opportunity, kind of surprise season there. But I think any, reasonable or I guess Gamecock fan who's over 20 years or more, I definitely would take door number 2 because it's a 50-50 chance we only have Lenore Sellers another year. I mean, how much longer are we going to have a guy like this? You look at it in the Clemson scenario, Deshaun Watson, Trevor Lawrence, and I'm not putting Lenore in that category yet, but you have a special potential generational player, South Carolina. We definitely expect to make a run at the playoffs this year, not start 3-3 like we did last year, where we had to basically claw back the entire season. But yeah, I think with a guy like Lenore Sellers, you've got to be playoff and I don't want to say bust. I mean, certainly 8 wins, I would not be disappointed.
Sure.
But I would like the potential to, be able to win, like, say, our last 3 or 4 games and make the playoffs. It's at least be in the conversation throughout, 80, 90% of the season.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Appreciate the call there, Joe. 803-404-6100 for the AAA Heating and Air phone lines. And that is a really good point. When you think about what you have at quarterback, and let's face it, historically speaking, Carolina's not had a lineage of like high-end quarterbacks in terms of like Heisman Trophy race, first-round draft picks in the NFL. That's just not what this school's had. So you have that guy. You want to be able to take advantage of it the most you can. Again, 8-win season is still respectable. But I could see how you would look at that and say, you know what, man, we didn't take advantage of Sellers while we had him, and who knows when we're ever going to have a guy like that again down the road in the future.
Yeah. Also putting emphasis on what Joe was saying, I think you have to take advantage of the talent that you have here. You went on a little run with recruiting. You were able to flip Lenore's on signing day from Syracuse, and you have to take advantage of it while he's here.
And by the way, if Carolina starts off 3-3 this year with the especially in those first 5 games, with Virginia Tech, Vanderbilt, Kentucky, we got a whole list of other problems if that's the case.
Right.
That I don't think is going to happen this year. But yeah, I certainly hope that's not the case this year.
Yeah, can't have that happen this year. And again, I think this team's more motivated, and coming out flat is something we won't see as much of from this team. I think there's a lot more experience in this team, that they've done that before, and they know how to kind of avoid that.
And again, it's weird for a program that, again, 2 years ago wasn't playing in a bowl game at all, and you would have taken December 28th in Birmingham or the Liberty Bowl or whatever. But when you have that taste of success of coming that close to the playoff, you almost kind of raise your bar immediately. Like, who are we to go to the Duke's Mayo Bowl? Who are we to go to Birmingham or whatever it may be, the Texas Bowl? Like, we're better than that. We need to be achieving things better than that. And that's why you feel like and have a lot of confidence that this year can be that year where you finally take that next step.
Right, absolutely. And it certainly helps you climb the ladder of college football in the grand scheme of things, too. As long as you can keep competing in the SEC, it's going to draw recruits in. It's going to show guys that you can compete, in the SEC, and then also from a national perspective, right? If you're making the college football playoff, guys are going to notice, and then you become the destination that, hey, come help us build something bigger, and it just continues. The momentum keeps rolling in college football, and so you got to capitalize on it when you can.
Appreciate the call there, Joe. 803-404-6100 for the AAA Heating and Air phone lines. We'll talk more bowl projections on who's going to win the national championship coming up next as the halftime show presented by the Men's Clinic for South Carolina rolls along. Tyler Head, Joe Machika, Captain Dave on your Wednesday on the Game. Tyler Ed here for the Mortgage Guru, Jacob Crowder with First Palmetto Bank. If you're looking for a mortgage guru, Jacob Crowder has you covered. He has helped many 107.5 The Game listeners and can help you too. And we here at The Game personally recommend him. Owned and operated right here in the Midlands, Jacob has local decision makers with means quick and precise processing and underwriting. If you're looking to make a move, give Jacob a call at 803-719-1005 or email him at jcrowder@firstpalmetto.com. Interest rates have stabilized as well as the local housing market, and now is as good a time to buy a house as ever. Jacob and First Palmetto Bank have the best product to help home buyers, and if you're considering building a home, they have no-nonsense construction loans that fit your needs. Give Jacob a call at 803-719-1005. First Palmetto Bank is a member of FDIC and an equal housing lender. Jacob Crowder and First Palmetto Bank, the mortgage guru. Welcome back in. Halftime show presented by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina. Tyler Head, Joe Machika, David Ayer along with you here on your Wednesday on the Game. A reminder, Friday, it's the Game Summer Golf Classic presented by Krager Showrooms, formerly known as The Nest, over in the Vista. We have one spot, just one spot remaining. If you want to take part, it's only $400 per team. Give Charter a call at 803-755-2000 and press the number 2 to sign up for the Game Summer Golf Classic, sponsored by Krager Showrooms. We're talking about bowl projections here. Again, ESPN putting out the latest list. And we talked about South Carolina being in either the LyQuest or the Duke's Mayo Bowl based on the 2 projections that were put in here. But they also have the full run of the college football playoff. So teams that make it first-round games, quarterfinal games, semifinal games, all the way to the national championship. And they differ slightly in terms of who they think are going to be playing for the national title come the end of January. And again, this is per Kyle Bonagora as well as Mark Schlabach of ESPN. They both agree Texas will be playing for the national championship. They both have them as the number 1 seed. But Bonagora has Penn State playing for the title, and Schlabach has Clemson playing for the title. So my question is, if I gave you the combination of Texas, Penn State, and Clemson, or the field, what are you taking to win the national championship?
Probably the field, Tyler.
Okay.
I'm taking the field simply because, like, Georgia has not been talked about at all. Like, I feel like nationally. I mean, other than making the playoff, I feel like as a national championship contender, Kirby really hasn't gotten much shine, and I think they do well with that, narrative leading in the offseason.
And so much of that, I think, is just due to Gunnar Stockton. Right? If you had, a certain thing at quarterback, if you had accepted a transfer from somewhere that was proven, or, hey, if Beck was even coming back for another year, then you say, okay, yeah, I got an idea of what we got at quarterback here, and given the talent they upgraded with the wide receiver and stuff like that, you're like, all right, that team looks like a championship-level contender. But when you don't know about the quarterback, that is such there's a hesitancy there, right? Say, okay, it's still going to be that same kind of Georgia team we've seen in the past couple of years, and that's the case for a lot of these contenders, starting new quarterbacks. And look, Texas, he's not brand new, but he's relatively new. But we know a lot about Arch Manning.
Right.
We know about Drew Aller. We know about Kate Klubnik. And I sense a theme here with the way these guys are thinking about picking national champions.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously it's the quarterback position. And I think, another, like, these teams that aren't getting talked about enough, like Ohio State could be sneaky too. I know Julian Sayin just got named the starter there, true freshman.
Yep.
But that team got punched in the mouth by Michigan in that game, and then you saw what they ran through the college football playoff. So, I mean, I wouldn't put it past Ryan Day's guys either, especially with Jeremiah Smith being as talented as he is.
Sure.
There are a lot of, teams that have question marks in college football this year, and I think, when it comes down to, Texas, Penn State, and Clemson, 3 of the, blue, I guess, quote-unquote, blue bloods that haven't delivered, I think I'm taking the field here.
Can you believe in Penn State with James Franklin's track record against good teams, like top 10 teams? Because, 4-20 now?
Not yet. Yeah, not yet. I think this year would be the year to do it. I think, again, he's got Drew Aller coming back, and, they had that playoff, that taste of playoff experience, losing to Notre Dame, obviously, in the semis.
Yeah.
So, again, I think
they could have won that game.
Right,
it was
absolutely.
tight.
They were in it and, had a really good chance to win that game. Obviously, you're losing Tyler Warren. You're losing some weapons up there in Happy Valley. But, again, I think, with the experience that this team had last year, this would be the year to do it for James Franklin, because I think it's literally wide open. Like, they're one of the only teams, as we've talked about, with proven quarterback depth.
Is picking Texas to win the national championship a lazy pick?
Yeah.
Because it's kind of one of those things like, oh, well, they got most expensive roster, got a lot of talent. Arch Manning's probably going to be pretty good. Like, it almost seems like a no-effort pick to be like, oh, well, Texas is probably going to win it all. And I've not decided on who I think my national champion is going to be yet. I think Texas got a very good chance at it. I think they're probably in line with the best odds chances to win the SEC. But I feel like for a lot of people, picking Texas is kind of low-hanging fruit this year.
Yeah, and I think it's also, too, it's chalking it up to the SEC champion. I think the SEC's deeper than the Big Ten this year in terms of quality. So you take the best team out of the best league and go from there. I think, and everything Texas has proven, and with Arch Manning coming up and in, obviously you can see why people are taking him. You just worry that, again, Sark's track record on the big stage as well, can he get the job done? And, we saw similar development before Kirby got one.
Sure.
He had to get to the big stage and fumble it a couple times before he was able to get over the hump.
Yeah, that is kind of a common theme because, again, they lost that Sugar Bowl to Washington 2 years ago were on the way to potentially tie the game against Ohio State. Fumble happened, and obviously Ohio State goes on and wins the entire thing. But, yeah, he keeps getting a little bit closer. And I think, and look, I think Arch Manning's going to be good. I don't know if he's going to be a Heisman Trophy winner and #1 overall pick, but I think it's going to be good, and he's got a lot of talent around him that him just being good still can mean Texas has a really good season. Again, they nearly played for a national championship with a 7th-round quarterback last year. I think Arch Manning is better than that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, Tyler, you made that point on my show last night. And, yeah, I couldn't agree more. If Arch Manning's anything as advertised, I think Texas is going to walk their way, to a college football semis at the very least. But, again, they do play in the SEC. They're going to have some challenges in the regular season, and we've talked about how that can be healthy, too. You don't necessarily want to walk your way straight to postseason football without any losses and stuff like that. So, yeah, I don't know. I think just them being the best team preseason-wise at the top of the SEC, if they can run through the regular season, yeah, I would think that it's kind of a lazy chalk pick for the playoff.
I look at one team that I feel like we're not talking about at all this offseason. That's Oregon. They were 13-0 last year. They had won the Big Ten. They beat Ohio State in the regular season, that weird ending to a game out there in Eugene. But I just feel like they're not getting talked about at all. And I think Dan Lanning likes it that way. I'm sure he's like hey, please don't talk about us. We use that as motivation, type of guy. But, and I get it. They're also starting a new quarterback in Dante Moore that wasn't great when he was at UCLA before he got to Oregon, but dealing with a lot better talent around him, coaches, all that kind of stuff. We'll see how that works out. But, they're really flying under the radar for a team that was the #1 seed in the playoff a year ago. It's bizarre, right?
Yeah, definitely. And you talk about another young coach that kind of needs the development, I guess, of postseason football. And Dan Lanning got his lumps last year, again, coming in 13-0, like you said, and getting things done. But, yeah, so I think Dan Lanning is ready to take that next step in his, coaching career, winning some postseason games and really taking that next step. And I think Oregon's obviously the place to do it. He's a tremendous recruiter. He's got a lot of talent there. So we're just waiting for him to make the next jump as a coach, for the game manager, the adjustments, and when things get tight and high pressure in the playoff, you just, you got to play the chess pieces correctly, and I think Dan Lanning's on track to.
We've got another caller on the AAA Heating and Air phone lines, another Joe, funny enough, that wants to talk about Arch Manning. Joe, got about 2 minutes here. What's on your mind?
Good morning. Good afternoon, guys. Hey, look, I just don't understand how they anoint Arch Manning. Like, last year he put up 3,500 yards with 30 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. I thought that you had to earn your keeps before, you're just given this anointing. Last year, Lenoir came out and showed the world who he can be. The last several games of the season, he showed that he can be a person that they put at the pedestal that they put him on, saying that he's a Heisman Trophy candidate. But Arch has done nothing at all. I mean, how many games did he start last year? And then they win that game? It's going to be interesting how he looks against Ohio State and how he responds after that game, especially if they lose. I just don't understand how you can anoint someone who's never got on the field to prove himself. I mean, are they just giving him that basically off of his last name? But last name doesn't win games. He has to get out there and do it himself. So
Yep.
that's my comment on how I feel about it, because I just think they're giving him too much when he hasn't showed us nothing.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Again, appreciate the call there, Joe. 803-404-6100 AAA Heating in our phone lines. And he's right. I think the last name is doing a lot of the heavy lifting here in terms of the hype. And again, he was a 5-star kid coming out of high school. You're always going to get a lot of buzz because of that. But when you add in you're from the most famous family in football history, that takes to another level. And what we did see out of him in those 2 starts that he had against Louisiana Monroe and Mississippi State looked good, right? And that just kind of, much like when Sellers got those few plays in 2023, say, okay, I see it. There's where it is, and he's going to take it to the next level the upcoming year. Is all the buzz warranted? Probably not. Do I think it's going to be good? Yeah. Do I think it's going to be elite? I don't know yet. I'm going to have to see. But as Joe mentioned, we're going to find out real quick. Ohio State, week number 1, that could go really good or really bad. And the narrative of Arch Manning coming away from week number 1 is going to set the standard for what the rest of the year looks like in terms of the conversation around him.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think he was kind of anointed simply because of his last name. And granted, he showed it in the little bit of looks that we've seen. But, I in terms of development and kind of what we've seen, I think he's just a year behind Lenoris, where Lenoris was at, right? Right now, I think Lenoir Sellers is a better quarterback. But, again, Arch Manning could go out there and prove it. Like, he could live up to the name, could live up to the hype. It's very, it's a very good chance. But as of right now, I'm with Joe. I agree. He's been anointed, I guess, by his last name. And, I mean, kid's got a Red Bull deal, so there's going to be some hype around him.
We'll come back, wrap up the hour. Weird motivating tactics, the buzz around Carolina football yesterday was fake poop. We'll discuss that coming up next here on the Halftime Show on the Game.
Yeah, He has this like cast of like poop, and he's just like, you just took a dump right on my desk if I do something bad. So he just be like, if I do something bad, he like, just go get the dump off my desk, and like he makes us put it on his desk. He's like, that's what you just did to me. So I mean, if you do something bad, that's usually what he does.
Welcome back in. Halftime show presented by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina. Tyree Joe-Machika, Captain Dave with you on your Wednesday. If you haven't heard it yet, there it was yesterday. LaNorris Sellers talking about the fake poop, cast of poop, whatever you want to phrase it as, that Mike Shula apparently keeps on his desk. And when watching film with his quarterbacks, if he does not like what he sees, they have to, I guess, put it in front of them or bring it to him as a shaming, I guess, of what they're not doing right.
It just means more, Tyler's all I really got for you. It's a very that tactic, I guess, belongs in the SEC. Every coach has got one, and I think it fits right in. And obviously Shane mentioned it's obviously something they don't want getting out about the program, but it is. I mean, it's the last week of fall camp. These guys are having fun at this point, and so yeah, it's gonna get brought up, I'm sure.
And look, this has made its way to Get Up this morning. It's got a lot of headlines coming away from it, and I think to me, the thing that stands out the most, this does not fit the personality that I tag for Mike Shula at all.
No.
He does not strike me as the kind of guy that would do something like this, which I think makes it all the more interesting, right? Like, okay, he's maybe kind of a little bit of a quirky guy, weird guy doing these kind of things that I just wasn't expecting. Like if Limbo did this, I'd be like, oh, yeah, that sounds like something Limbo would do, sure. Shula, not so much. And again, we don't hear from Shula a lot, and he spoke today to the media as well, and I'm sure clarified plenty about this when talking to them. But, like, I think it's more about the fact of what coach is doing it more than the act the act itself.
Yeah, and I think like every coach kind of has some kind of shtick, right? Or some kind of joke or line or something that gets run into the ground and players will latch onto and make fun of. So I think, this falls right in the line with that. And, Mike Shula being such an old school ball coach and, coaching Cam Newton coming up at Auburn, like, yeah, he's going to have some old school tendencies like that. And I think it, kind of fits right in.
Did you have any, like, coaches that had weird motivational tactics or things like that?
None of my coaches, but I do, as we were talking in the break, I have heard a bunch of really good ones from, I guess, around college football, and Jim Harbaugh being a big leader of that.
Yeah, which it kind of matches up with what do you expect out of Jim Harbaugh. And like, this is not like public shaming.
No.
You know what I mean? This is like, hey, you messed up. And a quarterback room, there's only a handful of people in there anyway, but this is your kind of way of acknowledging, hey, you messed up, don't do it again, that kind of stuff. And from what Sellers said yesterday, he doesn't have to do it as much because he's got experience, but like Cutter and Air apparently are frequent flyers when it comes to, as he said, getting the dump off of his desk and bringing it to him in the quarterback room.
Yeah, that's again, and clearly it's leading to camaraderie too within the room.
It's something silly and fun. Who cares?
Right, exactly. And so anything like that, especially in the dog days of August and in the middle of fall camp, will help your team stay light, stay loose, and really get down to the nitty gritty and get the work done that you need to. Right. I mean, it doesn't always have to be all dreary and all look at all the work that we have to do and all look at how hard our schedule is. Like,
right.
They're allowed to have fun.
Yeah. No, I love it. I think it's great. You're not hurting anybody by doing it. I just want to know where it came from. Like, how did he end up with it? Did he buy it himself? Did somebody gift it to him? Again, he spoke today. We'll get some more clarification on that coming up tomorrow. But again, I think the surprise is like this just doesn't fit my idea of what Mike Shula's personality is at the end of the day.
Yeah, and usually like things like that, it does come from like an old coach that he probably had or coached with and stuff like that, because obviously coaching is similar. Where if you work with a guy, you take certain things from different people and whatnot, and so I'm sure it was passed down. And again, it adds lightness to the room. I think Gamecock fans should I guess rally around it as much as you can, and thank the Lord that there's football to be talking about next week.
Yeah, I wonder how many times during the midweek media availability is like, hey, Sellers, did you have to get the dump today? Did you have to put it on his desk? Like, what happened in terms of them watching film of the previous week? And hopefully not. Hopefully he has a great season. We're not talking about any of those instances.
Right, I know. And then obviously once, the real games start, hopefully LaNorris doesn't have to do it. And it's again, practice film that, again, Aaron Cutter. And you hope it happens less and less. And, the quarterback room keeps developing.
Well, speaking of Sellers, we'll hit a little bit of what he had to say at the top of the hour coming up as he talked about, the guys are going to be playing around him coming up this year on the offense and what that can mean for this team, hopefully having a lot of success. That'll be coming up in hour number 3. It is the halftime show presented by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina. Tyler Head, Joe Machika, and Captain Dave along with you here on your Wednesday on The Game. All right, welcome back in hour number 3. It is the halftime show presented by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina. Tyler Head, Joe Machika hanging out, Captain Dave on the other side of the glass. We've got the Little League World Series on right now. You have Venezuela and Chinese Taipei in the second inning. Tonight, 7 o'clock, you'll get Irmo trying to stay alive, taking on South Dakota. Another phenomenal game by them yesterday as they eliminated Hawaii. Brady Westbrooks, who had the hit that sent them to the Little League World Series 2 weeks ago, comes in following Joe Gioletti's phenomenal no-hitting performance the other day against Nevada. Pitches a great game yesterday against Hawaii. Keeps their hopes alive. They got to win 2 more games today and tomorrow to keep their hopes alive of the championship this upcoming weekend, but looking good right now.
Yeah, shout out to the boys from Irmo, man. Putting that little town on the map here for a little bit. The Little League World Series, obviously, it's an awesome event and everything. And shout out to the guys from up the road, man. It's really cool that they've gotten to get there. And, got to play a lot of baseball. Got to win a lot of baseball to get to Williamsport. So, done enough already. Still fighting to come home with a Little League World Series title. It'd be sick.
Yeah, it's been fun to watch this week. And, again, they're coming up again tonight at 7 o'clock, taking on South Dakota up there in Williamsport. Getting back into what was said yesterday, Lenore Sellers taken to the podium, and he, obviously said the fake poop thing, which got the most run, but did give some interesting insight into things going on both on and off the football field. And we'll start off with this, Dave. Cut number 20. He's now got to deal with Beats by Dre, and if you've seen the commercial, this dropped the other day on social media. He's got a nice little hype video / commercial for their new deal with the company.
Yeah, I mean, it was one day after practice or something. They asked me if I wanted to do it. We got into work, so I shot after practice, and then I had Manning Passing Academy the next day. So I mean, that took from 3 to 8 something. It took all day, but I mean, at first I'm not really an actor, the acting type, but they had me doing all this stuff. But I just all right, let's do it.
I don't think he had to really act all that much. He was just kind of walking around and looking cool with Beats by Dre's on his head. I think that's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess you factor in how much, loud and kind of rah-rah Lenoris is. It's probably acting to some extent for him.
Sure.
Very cool, calm, collected guy. So doing any little bit is probably a little something for him. But, yeah, I mean, look like a boss in it.
Yeah, so that's really cool. And, again, one of many NIL opportunities he's gotten, obviously, is taken care of well here at South Carolina as it is, but he continues to gain notoriety. Again, this time a year ago, nobody knew who this guy was. Outside of this bubble, nobody was like, who's Lenore Sellers? Why do we care about this kid? What's he going to be? And now this year, he's a favorite for the Heisman Trophy. Depending on what mock draft you're looking at, a first-round pick. He's got deals with companies like Beats by Dre. This kid's living the life, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, being as humble as he possibly can be during all of it, just kind of letting the game come to him, both on and off the field, right? I think that was kind of the vibe we've gotten from him since he got here. But really, just taking it as it comes, not over ambitious. And, it checks, with the kind of person that he is and the kind of person that his teammates say he is too.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see where he gets the help around him on the field this upcoming year. We'll start off with cut number 21 here. This is him talking about the progress he's seen from Nick Harbor so far this offseason.
Yeah, he's just getting more comfortable, just getting more fluent, just flowing through things a lot better. I think having this spring, because he had that last couple of years, helped him a lot.
So, look, Sellers is talented enough that he could, not saying it's going to be the same result, he could be a Cam Newton-esque type of guy in an offense where there's no help around him and he does the heavy lifting. I don't think that's going to be the case this year. And I look at somebody like Nick Harbor as hey, I don't know if he's going to go out there and be a first-round draft pick wide receiver, but this is a guy that has the chance to really make a big impact in his third year in the program.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Nick Harbor's going to make a big step. You look at Mazio Bennett, also in that room, about to make a big step this year as well. The Mike Furry effect is real, right? When he was brought in to help change this wide receiver room and give Lenoris, some help as he comes, through the system. And I think Furry has absolutely done that, right? You've seen the jumps that Harbor has made, between the first and second year, and you're expecting a bigger jump this third year. And you look at Mazio Bennett, what he was able to do as a freshman, and how Furry was kind of able to tap into his competitiveness and use it to Mazio's advantage, and see the field as a freshman. So I think it's huge, and that depth is only getting better, and the help is getting around Lenoris now to where it's arguably some of the most we've seen yet to this point on this offense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, I think there's value in having most of your receiving core come back from last year, right? Like you have those same key guys. They've now spent another offseason together, especially Harbert, because again, he was doing track stuff a year ago.
Yep.
So you have that rapport with those two guys. And obviously Mike Frey's done a really good job with receivers in general and is, just over a year here on campus and recruiting as well. So you got those guys coming back, another offseason work together, and then you've got talented true freshmen, right? Whether it be Donovan Murph, Brian Rowe, or somebody else that we're not talking about quite as much, like Alex Cyrus or whatever, one of these guys is going to make some kind of impact. How much, I don't know, but that group has been hyped up too much to have none of them do anything, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, Donovan Murph coming from right up the road, we've heard all the hype around him, and I expect him to kind of live up to it, and make an impact, because these guys are bringing up the back end of this wide receiver room, and if they can have as much of an impact as, say, a Mazio Bennett did last year, I think that's huge, as Mazio and Nick and kind of the top of the room take that next step as well. You need these guys to fill in behind them and continue to make plays, and again, I think Murph and Rowe are perfectly, in a position to do so.
As well as when you kind of look behind the Norris Sellers and the running back room, you obviously, we don't know what the Faison situation is going to be, so that leaves things up in the air a little bit, but you have a lot of quality talent there as well. And then we'll hit cut number 7 here, Dave. This is Coach Beamer talking about the running back room amid the uncertainty of the Faison ruling.
The group's handling it really, really well, I feel like. Proud of Sewell, first of all. He's just been all business and just goes out there and worries about focuses on what he can control, which he can't control the NCAA's decision. So he just goes out there and works and tries to get better. So proud of him from that standpoint. We did do a spelling bee the other night, a skit in the talent show, and Sewell's word was eligibility. That was pretty funny as well. But I've been proud of him, the way that he has worked. Proud of that whole group and the way they've supported him throughout this process as well. And that's a group. It's I believe this. We're better in that running back room than what we were last year. And that's nothing against anybody that was here. It's nothing against Rocket. Rocket was the guy in that room, and he got the bulk of the reps and the carries. We have more depth in that room this year, and they're all really supportive of one another, and knowing that they're all competing with each other and making one another better, and they're all supportive of Sewell, and Sewell's supportive of them, and they've done a good job of working together, without a doubt.
Now, that's a statement, right? Because that was a pretty solid running back room a year ago, anchored by, obviously Rocket Sanders, who got a bulk of the carries, but Ottaway went out there, played his role well, and the few times saw Jordan Howell, saw some good things out of him. Now, is he counting Faison when he says that? I'm assuming he is.
I would think so, yeah, because he's been, kind of in the mix with the guys. And, I think that's beneficial, too. Even having a guy with that much experience, showing some of these younger guys, it's almost how to be a pro. The phrase, like, teaching guys how to be a pro. It's the same thing. So having him in that room is helpful. But then even if you miss him, you've got that experience teaching those young guys.
And that is a good point that you bring up, because if he's not able to play this year, he's still on the team. He's still practicing, and I think about this for a guy like Jawarn Howell, who's still relatively young in his college career. They're like, hey, saw this happen. I've been in this situation before. Here's what I did. And Oscar Ottaway can obviously give you the same kind of insight as well. So, even if Faison's not playing, he can still be a valuable teaching tool for these guys and hopefully help them become a successful unit if he's not out there to be able to make it on the field. And I feel fine about Oscar Ottaway being RB1. Again, he's never quite been in that position in terms of the lead back, going back to his time at North Texas, but the production I saw of him last year was good. It was solid. Again, he's capable when it comes to catching the ball. He can pass block well, all those kind of things that are positive. That's what you want to see out of a running back. And, again, maybe he's just kind of been this gem that hasn't gotten the right opportunity yet to really be the bell cow guy, and maybe takes off and runs with it. We'll see.
Right. And then, you look at Oscar, what he was able to do last year in that bowl game, right? Doing it on a high ankle sprain, doing what he did in that bowl game on a high ankle sprain says a lot, right? He was fighting for his job for the next season, right? And he needed to make an impression. Rallies through a high ankle sprain. Tyler, I've had one. It's not fun. You can't really cut.
Yeah.
There's no real, it's one of the worst, ankle sprains you can get. So for him to battle through that, to do what he did in that bowl game, shows you a lot, shows you his toughness. So certainly will be interesting to see if he can carry the bell cow load here. I think he's capable of, being a quality running back. You just need some more help, as is the SEC schedule is grueling.
And we heard yesterday that Isaiah Gustave had, I think it was a 60 or 70-yard run in one of the scrimmages, which is the longest play they've had so far. So, boom, explosive play there, obviously really good. And, again, I don't put a ton into what happened with Gustave last year at Colorado because he was not the featured part of the offense. When it came to running the ball, that was Shoro Sanders. His offensive line was terrible. So I don't think we have